Hi, I'm Chris James, and I'm the creator of a healthy alternative wellness brand, and this is the Rowland podcast.
All right, Chris James, a healthy alternative. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. I got interested in your story. You helped your brother lose 100 pounds. How did that happen?
Well, I think he had got up to maybe 420 pounds or so. And we were still pretty young at that time, our late 20s, early 30s. But I could tell that he was like shortening his lifespan. He had just had a young child. He actually had two children at the time, but he had just had his boy. And I basically could see where this was going, where he potentially couldn't be around for his children, for his wife. And my brother, that particular brother, he's one of my best friends. So I had actually started working on my own health and wellness at the time. And I had learned how to lose a lot of weight very quickly by accident. I had my own issues, and the practice I was using to resolve my own issues happened to have, weight loss was attached to it. So I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, what's going on? What are you doing to, get this weight off? Are you concerned with it? And he wasn't really in a good headspace when I very first reached out. It took probably about 3 months of me talking to him and then also working with my other brother who had ended up losing about 60 pounds, 50 or 60 pounds in that time frame. And when he saw that, I think he was just like, well, if John can do it, my other brother, he's like, I could do it. So he eventually got on board. He started doing some of the traditional weight loss stuff to begin. Ended up getting down to about 400 pounds, maybe 490, something like that. But he hit a plateau. And so he was like, all right, Chris, what do I need to do? So I got him on a regimen. And over the course of, I think it was about 90 days or so, he lost 100 pounds, which was incredible. It was crazy.
90 days, he lost 100 pounds. So you said that you started your own health journey and losing weight was kind of a side effect of that. What is that about?
My health journey or the
like your health journey and what you're doing that causes people to lose so much weight, yourself included, probably.
Yeah, so I was probably like 236 pounds at my biggest. I've always been slender, so not really big. A lot of people don't consider that big, but I was what I would call skinny fat. But that was the least of my worries. I had thinning hair, cognitive decline, and like heart issues, heart palpitations. I could tell that like I was going to have a heart problem in the future. It was just one of those things. It was like an intuition thing. But the main thing that I was dealing with was an infection that had seemed to be getting progressively worse. So over the course of about a decade, this infection that no matter how many tests I got done, no matter how many pills or drugs I took, just would not go away. And the last time I talked to my specialist about this infection specifically, he was just like, you know what? I've literally given you every drug we have. Maybe what you're dealing with is dietary. So at the time when I was working with him, I was also studying natural health through the alkaline diet and through fasting. Mm-hmm. And so when he said that, it was almost like you're out of options. You're going to have to do this the hard way. Like there is no easy way out of this. But I was already in that mind frame. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to go balls to the walls. Like I'm going to do alkaline food 100% of the time. And I'm also going to do fasting. I'm going to basically just drink water. I'm going to stop because I'm still in my late 20s, early 30s. I'm drinking and, I'm having fun. I'm going to stop all of that. And I'm just going to lock in. So over the course of I think it was about 5-6 months, I drank a gallon of water a day. I used distilled water. I fasted regularly, and I did some pretty long fasts. We can get more into it. I don't necessarily recommend approaching it this way, but I started off with like a 13-day water fast, and then I followed that up with like 10 days, and then 8 days, and then 5 days, and then another 10-day, and I just kept doing these water fasts because on my very first water fast, I noticed that the irritation that I experienced with my infection had gone away.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that's beautiful about water fasting is, okay, if what you're dealing with is a response to what you're eating, when you don't eat, then you should see some relief. And I did. So that was like, okay, you're on to something. Whatever is going on with you has something to do with what you're eating, which with me dealing with this for a decade, I had never even considered that. Like it never came across my mind once. So then, go ahead.
Can I ask a couple of questions here? So what kind of infection are we talking about?
So that's the thing. No one could tell me. I could tell you where it was located. So it was in my urethra. So it was basically like kind of like an itch you can't scratch.
Okay.
So the original thought was this is something like a STI or something like that. But whenever I got tested, no matter what tests I got, they all came back negative. Mm-hmm. And so no one ever actually pinpointed. As a matter of fact, at one point, the doctor was like, yeah, maybe it's in your head. Because it was an intermittent thing. It wasn't like, oh, it's just all the time. It was intermittent. It would only happen like moments. It would just be like almost like a little twinge. So it wasn't anything super serious, but it was getting worse. It was progressively getting more frequent and more, the duration would last longer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
the doctor that you went to, what type of doctor was this that you were working with?
Well, I started with a general practitioner, and I think he tried to give me like ibuprofen for it, and then I want to say that I don't know if I did a prostate exam or not. I can't remember now. I think I did do a prostate exam actually, and then he sent me to, it's been so long ago now, some type of specialist.
But all these people are running these tests. Nobody's coming back with anything conclusive at all. They just can't tell you why this is happening.
No. I mean,
okay.
It literally nothing would come back positive for anything.
Okay.
So
you start these fasts. What was the first question I wanted to ask about the fasting was, why were you drinking distilled water?
So I started studying water at the same time. It was a part of my process. I was very into water. And some of the people that influenced me early on were teaching about natural water sources. And I started learning about how, like, for example, dew is distilled water and, mist and just different forms of, I'm looking at the life cycle of water and how it purifies itself. And what I was trying to do was I was trying to figure out how I can closely mimic what nature does with water naturally. And obviously, water will pick up minerals and things as it travels, but it distills itself first. So I really got interested in distilled water. And I learned early on that there was a very major distinction between distilled water leaching vital minerals and distilled water leaching inorganic minerals. There was a paper put out, I believe, by Dr. McCullough that is probably still out to this day, talking about how it would leach vital minerals. For some reason, that didn't resonate with me. And I was looking at all of these natural water sources that, may not be considered spring water. And so I was like, I think there's something missing here. So I was just like, this is what resonates with me. Let me try it, because I'm a very big, I like experimenting. So, because I was doing spring water before. I was doing spring water. And I started drinking a gallon of distilled water a day. And over the course of maybe 2 years, I drank a gallon every day. I never had any mineral deficiencies. Nothing that they said was supposed to happen happened.
Wow. So no electrolyte problems? Like you weren't like low in sodium, magnesium, potassium, those electrolytes, cramping and that type of problem?
No, the interesting thing is, me personally, I never had any electrolyte imbalance. However, my brother, who was the 400-pound brother, he did have imbalances. Now, his imbalances happened prior to ever doing fasting distilled water. He already had them. Mm-hmm. What we found that was interesting is when he started to fast, change his diet, drink the distilled water, the imbalances actually went away.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he had blood work done I think he was on a 10-day fast at the time, and he had to drink because he had to get some blood work done. Oh no, a urinary test at work, and so he drank to get some urine going, and I don't think he broke his fast, but he either was still on the fast or he just got off the fast, and his deficiencies actually improved.
Wow. So deficiencies with electrolytes or like other minerals?
It was one specific electrolyte, and I cannot remember. This is these stories are probably 11 years old now. If I asked him, he would probably know. But it was one specific electrolyte that was out of balance, that came in balance. I don't think he didn't have multiple imbalances as far as like electrolytes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so when you first go back before like at this point, you're kind of experimenting with fasting and the different types of water that you're drinking, and then what was your personal kind of experience with this? Did you lose a lot of weight or some weight, or like what were your benefits that had you continue to do this?
So the number one driving force was the relief I got from the infection. So that was the number one thing. I mentioned to you earlier that I had like heart palpitations, and that was a major concern for me. Interestingly enough, when I started fasting, they got worse. So they got more intense. And if I wasn't so resolute, I might have stopped because it really made me nervous. But I felt like what I was doing was going to benefit my body. And now in retrospect, I completely understand what's happening. But at the very beginning, I didn't 100% know. It was more faith. But what ended up happening through fasting consistently, my heart palpitations went away completely. So not only would I not get them when I fasted, but I didn't get them when I wasn't fasting either. I also noticed that, especially on my first fast, I had some very intense cravings. So I specifically remember craving Sloppy Joe, which, my mom made us Sloppy Joe when we were children. So I knew at that time I hadn't had Sloppy Joe for about 15 years. And I never craved Sloppy Joe. Like, even when I was a child, it wasn't like, you know what, Mom? I'm really looking forward to some sloppy. It just was not a food that I was. And so why am I craving Sloppy Joe? I was also craving like chocolate cake and just weird stuff that, I would eat on occasion, but not really have a strong craving for. And what the realization I started to come to is that the body was finally processing out the chemical constituents that were associated with these food products. It was cleansing it out of the blood. And as it went through that process, I experienced these cravings. But once I went through that process and I didn't give in to the craving, then it was gone. I never had cravings for that stuff again to this very day. I mean, that's been a decade since this happened. So
that bizarre.
It's incredible. I was experiencing these transformative things in a very short period of time. Now, my weight loss, which I just tracked everything. Like I said, I went at it like a scientist. So I noticed that after my first day, I lost like 4 pounds. One day, I was like, what? That's weird. And then as time went on, I noticed a pattern, and my weight averaged about 2 pounds per day. I would lose about 2 pounds per day every day. Now, this is pure water fasting. I did not have an electrolyte. I did not have salt, no coffee, nothing like that. It's just water only. So it's probably one of the most difficult forms of water fasting that you could do. And it produced this result, which was interesting. But the other thing that I noticed that really turned me on was day 4 to day 6. I experienced what I call the Goldilocks zone, where I felt euphoric. I felt like I had energy. I had a credible clarity of mind. My outlook on life was just through the roof. And I felt like I didn't need to eat. Like, I felt like I could go on forever in the state that I was. That didn't last too long, just a couple of days. And then I noticed that the body went back into a deep detox, and I felt terrible. But it was an experience that showed me that we do not necessarily have to eat to have energy in order to function, in order to have brain power, we don't have to necessarily eat every day or every 2 hours or whatever the regimen is. There is something else some other energy source we could tap into. And I was just like, this is amazing.
Well, when I heard that, your story, I mess around with fasting a little bit, and I've had similar experiences. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about were some of those experiences. And one of them is that feeling of like, you feel fantastic, like absolutely fantastic. And so many things go away. And one of the things that went away for me on just a 60-hour fast, 60 hours. And like, I work out a lot with calisthenics and stuff. So I do a lot of push-ups, a lot of power cleans and stuff where I'm working on my wrist takes kind of a beating. You're in a push-up position. So my wrists were super sore. And I did this 60-hour fast and I felt fantastic. I also have this stretching routine that I do every single day, the same stretches, the same way. And at 60 hours, I did that stretching routine and I could go deeper into every single stretch, every single one. I mean, to the extent where I was like, what is going on here? Mm-hmm. And then I realized, well, not only do my wrists not hurt, but nothing else that normally, any kind of ache, pain, twinge, nothing hurt. And so what I thought was similar to what you were talking about is that, well, that's obviously something that I'm eating that is creating those problems. But that's what I wanted to talk to you. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is like, is that the case in all of your experience here? Is it that you're eliminating the problem by fasting? You feel better. Your all your inflammation goes away, or is that a side effect of just fasting? That maybe it's not the food that's irritating you and causing this inflammation or something like that. It's just the fasting is fixing it. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, they're kind of intertwined. So you've got it's very likely you're eating something that's causing inflammation. And then also water fasting, or fasting in general, I should say, is really great at reducing inflammation. When you fast, especially like water fasting, you're removing the thing that's causing the inflammation, and then you're using a resource that can actually like destroy inflammation, especially if you get into like dry fasting, which is what I call like an inflammation buster. And, through depending on the research you may have done, like a lot of people believe that inflammation is at the root of most disease. Mm-hmm. So when you use something like fasting, it's like a shotgun approach where like kind of like no matter what you're dealing with, you're going to see some type of relief. But yeah, a lot of the foods, I mean, look, in America, we already have a very low standard as far as it relates to like the quality of food, the different ingredients that are put in there. So we're being attacked through our food, the processing, even something as normal as pasteurization, which is touted as just this really, really amazing process that rids the food of bacteria and improves shelf life. Like I don't really hear anybody speak against pasteurizing things, but you kill the digestive enzymes. And that's a major problem, because if you can't digest something that you're eating, there's going to be inflammation. Mm-hmm. So if you just look at it from that point alone, a lot of the products we consume, they don't have the digestive enzymes. And this is the reason why, I love raw food. Or just if you heat your food, but you don't kill the digestive enzymes, you'll see a lot of disease go away. Inflammation will go away. Like cooking food can actually be very problematic just for that reason. And it's not like most people aren't supplementing with digestive enzymes or something to help break their food down. So we get a lot of bloating. We get a lot of gassiness. Actually, funny story. My sister, who's kind of like a tomboy, she, one day she farted in front of me, and And I just thought it was so crazy because women don't fart in front of me, right? I'm not used to that. And so I said something to her and she's like, what? It's natural. Everybody does it. And when I started fasting, I noticed that I wasn't gassy. And so I was like, wait a minute, if farting is just natural, right? Which it is natural. But it's as if to say that you're going to fart just because you're alive. Well, no, we're farting because something's not digesting well. It's like the old thing, beans, good for your heart. The more you eat, the more you fart. So we know we can eat certain things that will make us gassy. So then that has to mean that there's things we can eat that won't make us gassy. And so I started looking at the body, the way it functions, how we digest, like things that we would consider normal. I started looking at it like, is it normal? Like, is it natural? Should we just stink? Should we just, should bowel movements smell foul like that?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean, there's a ton of people that think that they can tell you a whole lot about your health by what your bowel movements look like. And I believe that to be true. In my own experience, when I'm dialed in on my diet, that, like you say, those aren't problems. You just don't have those problems. So you helped your brother. So what did you tell him to do? Did you just tell him to fast, water fast, or like, what was there a protocol that you started with your brother? And I want to work into what your protocol is today, but I'm interested in the origins of kind of how you realized that you were kind of onto something that was repeatable for a lot of different people. And I mean, obviously, if you want to lose weight, don't eat anything, right? Like that's pretty simple, but there seems to be a little bit more to it, and how to do it in a healthy way. And also how to do it in a way that you can stick to it and continue that for the rest of your life. And I'm assuming that's what your program is designed to do. But what about absolutely. The origins?
Okay. So like I said, we were scientists in the beginning. We were learning, and so we tried a lot of different things. So at that time, I wanted to push the limits, and my brother did as well. And so I think his very first fast was 10 days. Water only. We just wanted to see what kind of results he would get. His results were far more dramatic than mine because I was half his size. So what we also noticed is people who start off much heavier, actually two things. Number one, they have an easier time with detox symptoms. They naturally tend to have an easier time because fat suspends toxicity. So when you have a lot of excess body fat, you've got all those contaminants in there, it's almost like a slow release of toxins into your system when you fast, versus somebody like me who's smaller, who still has the same amount of toxins. I had a very hard fast. So that we learned that. The other thing was he dropped way more weight than I did. It still averaged out to about 2 pounds in the long run. But the first 4 days, he might have dropped like 20 pounds or something like that, So that was a huge motivation. After that, he wanted to do a long fast because, I don't know if you've ever been overweight but like when you're overweight, 200 pounds, and you lose 20 pounds in 4 days, your motivation just goes through the roof. Mm-hmm. So he's like, all right, well, if I can lose this much in 4 days or whatever, then what happens if I just fast for a month? And so he decided to fast. I think he did like 21 days. Mm. And what we noticed was his weight loss dropped dramatically. So between days 0 and 14, his weight loss averaged out to about 2 pounds a day. And then from 14 to 21, he lost almost no weight. As a matter of fact, I think one of the days he actually gained like a pound. Wow. Which that's a whole nother story. How do you gain weight when you're fasting? So, but what he noticed was he had crazy inches coming off. He had one day, probably around day like 18, where he had like 4 or 5 inches come off his waist in one day. And it was just, I was just blown away. I didn't think anything like that was even possible. And what we learned was from day 14 to day 21, the body, I call it hyperautophagy, but the body goes through this state where it starts shrinking and tightening and recycling those old cells like nobody's business. It's a very specific time, 14 to 21 days. And after that, we altered his schedule again because I was super excited, but he wasn't. He wanted the weight loss. He's like, the inches is cool, but I want to get this weight off. So then we altered his schedule and we started putting him on 14 twos. So he would do a 14-day fast, and then he would do a refeed for about 2 days, and then he would do another 14-day. That way, he didn't go through that week of, shrinking and tightening where he wasn't losing any weight because it was very demotivating. When you go through 21 days of fasting and your only motivation is weight loss and you have a whole week where you don't lose weight, you don't want to do it. So we started to basically game the system because what I discovered was if you take 1 day break, okay, so you're fasting, let's say you're going to fast for 30 days and you take a 1 day break in between, there's this reset that happens. And you don't get that week of what I call it the fasting shrink week. Now that's what I've termed it. You don't get the fasting shrink week. So we started playing around with that. This is all, we didn't know all of this succinctly at the time, but we started playing with the 14 twos and we noticed that his weight loss was more consistent and he liked that. And then I think the next month he just did his own thing. So, the first month he was doing the shorter fast, and then we did like the really long 21 day, and then he did the 2 14 days, and then after that it was just kind of like whatever he felt like doing. Mm-hmm.
What would you do or recommend for him to do on the 2 days that he would eat?
So my recommendation was alkaline diet, right? Now, the alkaline diet is super simple. It just means that you're eating natural whole foods. That's all it is. So, quinoa and zucchini and all that type of stuff. I want to say that he would also have some fish with it as well. I don't have any problem with meat, by the way. Like, a lot of people think I'm vegan or something. I'm not. I personally don't eat meat because sourcing meat is very difficult. And I find that if I allow myself to eat meat, I'm going to also eat meat when I go to restaurants and places where I cannot determine the sourcing of the meat. Mm-hmm. And so I just decided it was easier for me not to eat it. But I think well-sourced, salmon or, beef or whatever the case may be is fine to eat in proper quantities. And then every once in a while he would have like some fast food, you know what I mean? We were still at the beginning stages. We didn't really understand how detrimental it was. I never told him to eat that stuff, but he would have it. And we learned.
What would he feel like? Like if you're on a 14-day fast and then, you have 2 days to eat and you eat some fast food in those 2 days, I would be interested to know what he felt like. Like
trash.
Yeah. That's what I would think.
Yeah. Stomach pains, digestive issues. The interesting thing about it is your body becomes hypersensitive at that point. So it's actually an interesting experience because you get to see how detrimental that food is to your body. Whereas if you've been eating processed foods for 20, 30, 40 years and you go eat Taco Bell, you get a little gassy, you get the runs. You kind of just think of that as normal. Yeah. Maybe you get some skin eruptions, but you probably have bad skin anyway. You don't really think too much of it. But when you're in a fasted state and you eat that stuff, it tears you up. It also messes with your mental. That's another thing we notice. It can put you in a depressive state. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to tell you this story. So my sister, basically my entire family was obese, by the way. So
Except
I've got
you?
Yeah, I guess so. At the time, yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder what was it that you were doing that they were not doing, or why were you the one person that wasn't obese in your family?
I think that I've always been a little bit more conscious about my weight. When I was younger, so my oldest brother and the brother we've been talking about in this story, the one that lost the 100 pounds, when my parents got separated, they moved to Delaware and I was living in Ohio, and my dad got remarried. And when he got remarried, his new wife didn't cook the way that my mom cooked. So when I went to go visit them after not seeing them for maybe like a year, they had blown up. I mean, they were huge. And I was still small because I was eating my mom's cooking. And that happened when I was probably like between the ages of 9 and 11. So I was very young, but I was very influential, and it stuck with me. I knew at that moment, that eating certain foods would make you fat. Like I knew it because I saw it happen to my brothers. So I was always more conscious. My other brother, who also started this journey with me, he didn't have that experience. He didn't go visit them. He didn't see their weight increase. And then by the time he had seen them, maybe a couple of years had passed, he just wasn't as aware, I don't think. But he was smaller as well because he was with my mom. But then he ended up going to the military. Before he went to the military, he was depressed. Then he got in shape, lost some weight because he had to be able to, pass the test. And then I think the military kind of messed up his digestive system, eating the what do you call MREs or, And so then he started gaining weight after the military again. My sister, who was also obese, she just had really, really bad habits. She drank a lot. She ate out every day. She never cooked a meal at home. She just was the extreme of like the standard American diet. My mom slowly started gaining weight just because of age and her body's breaking down and just not taking care of herself. So she just slowly gained weight. My dad was always bigger. He was always bigger from the time I was little. He played football and had some medical procedures when he was a child that caused him to gain weight, and he was just always bigger. So
you were about to tell me a story about your sister.
So because my sister was obese as well, I'm getting everybody on the fasting train. She had done, it may have been like 8 weeks of fasting, something like that. Lost a tremendous amount of weight. I don't remember the exact numbers right now. Everything's documented on my YouTube channel. But she ended up eating Popeye's chicken coming off of her fast. She's very hard-headed. Like I said, she never cooked. So she's thinking no big deal. The chicken did something where she started to develop this pimple on her cheek. And it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually, because she's picking at it, right, it pops. And she said it left a hole in her cheek. She could literally put a pin through her cheek and it would go into her mouth like there was a hole there. Yeah. So everybody's going to obviously respond to different foods differently. Now keep in mind, my family who did these fasts, they've been fasting for months, right? Not necessarily every day, but on and off. So we're doing extended fasting. And this is one of the reasons why I don't recommend approaching it like this anymore, because you can do it safely. But if you're not going to do it safely, if you're going to make these bad choices, you can really harm your body. And it just, doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested in the fasting for a couple of different reasons. I mean, for the last 15 years or something, people have been talking about intermittent fasting. Sometimes I like to train. Like, I don't know what your exercise protocol is, but I work out almost every day, and I will mess around with going in fasted or going in having eaten something. And I particularly like fasted better. I never have any stomach upset. I just feel much better. There's, certain people claim lots of different benefits for working out fasted, especially like fasted cardio or different things. I don't really do it for that reason. I do it more for I can get maximum output without ever having any sort of stomach discomfort. So, or I choose to eat early, but I work out very early in the morning. So really, there is no time beforehand to eat something. But if I were working out in the afternoon, I would make sure that I had like 3 hours, 4 hours before, just so, because I don't like feeling, I don't like having something on my stomach or in my stomach while I'm working out. It just doesn't make me feel very good. But I'm very interested in the anti-inflammatory results that I've had from fasting. And then I also know what autophagy is. And I'm interested in that because autophagy, maybe you can explain to the audience what that is better than me.
Autophagy is what it means is self-eating. So basically what it is the body recycles damaged, old, mutated cells. So it's a upregulation of the efficiency of the body holistically, because if you have cells that are low functioning, wouldn't it make sense if you could to break that stuff down, get rid of the parts you don't need, and then reuse this like parts that you can and build something more efficient, kind of like fixing up an old shack or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so you get better energy output because you have a cell that is a higher functioning. When the cells become inflamed, it's very hard to get water in the cell. And this is another major problem that we face in modern society is we drink what I would consider bulk water. So, any of your bottled water, tap water, most waters are considered bulk water, just meaning they have a big bulky head. The molecule has a big head. So you've got a cell that's inflamed. It's harder to penetrate. And then you got a big bulky water molecule trying to get their head in there. And so, and you get your energy through that process of the water hydrating the cell, again, pulling the hydration out of the water. So if your cells are inflamed, you can't get the water in, you're going to have low energy. So autophagy just says, let's get rid of inflammation. Let's break that down. Let's get rid of the cellular waste. Let's rebuild a new healthy cell. And now you can get better energy out of even the bulky water, but also, the cell itself performs better. And so the interesting thing about the other thing too, so like alongside of autophagy, if you fast for, let's say 48 hours. So the intermittent fasting community that pushes, maybe they might do like 36 hours or, some people push it. You get more human growth hormone as well, which is, for those who are like fitness people, I mean, human growth hormone is great for gains and just getting stronger. But it's also great for repairing damage in the system holistically as well. Right. So that dual benefit of the human growth hormone, autophagy, and then the additional energy you get from the renewing of your cells, it does wonders for the fitness community, or just somebody who has trouble getting around, Right. Now, my brother, so this is my younger brother. This is the other brother. I guess I should say their names because this is going to get confusing. So Jonathan, my younger brother, he's the one who actually started fasting with me originally. Okay. He was the one who lost 60 pounds. No, he lost 50 pounds in 6 weeks. He actually reversed his diabetic symptoms. Wow. All of that in six weeks. He went on to become a fitness trainer. So he moved to California and started to get his certification. But he was still fasting at the time. So he would tell me stories of going to the gym. He called it fasted lifting. I'm sure it's kind of a popular thing now. Yeah. But back then it wasn't. And so, he's going to the gym and he's curling these 50s. And he looks like me, like how I look right now. He looks like me. I mean, he was more defined and built out, but as far as our size. And these bodybuilders would come up to him at the gym and they're like, how are you doing that? Like, those things are freaking heavy. Those guys are at least twice his size, at least. And what we started to learn was, because he was building muscle while in a fasted state, his muscles developed differently. He got these supple, flexible muscles that had a tremendous amount of strength. And when we would like check his numbers as far as like, how big are his biceps and stuff, in a relaxed state, there's nothing special. He's like I said, he's my size. But then when he would tense it, his bicep would grow. I don't remember the specific numbers, so I don't want to chop it up. But you would see his muscle when he would tense it, basically. Mm-hmm. So he was a sleeper. And he went through his whole, I think it was a 6-month program. He would fast 5 days out of the week. So he did what we call the 5-2. He would fast for 5 days. He'd eat for 2 days. And then he would do, like I said, at the time he was doing like an alkaline diet. Sometimes he would eat out during that time as well. But because he was only fasting for 5 days at a time, the recoil from eating the BW3s or something like that, it wasn't nearly as bad.
What's
Not
a
even
BW3?
Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So also I'm interested in like what your protocol is between like maybe like everybody we've been talking about so far has really needed to lose a lot of weight. They've gotten way, way overweight, but there are benefits to fasting that I know. I've never really been overweight. So I'm doing it for a different reason. I really like it for performance reasons. And also I'm fascinated with how effective it was at reducing inflammation. Mm-hmm. Fascinated. And like things that hurt just didn't hurt. And then also my business partner, he got really big, and then all of a sudden I didn't see him for 5 months or something, and we work in different locations. And so when we got back together, I mean, he lost like 70 pounds. And I asked him what he did, and he said, well, I just quit eating breakfast, but I think it was more than that. And I started talking to him more, and he was doing some of these extended fasting, and he had incredible results where the weight just fell off. Like it fell off of him. And so we've talked about it a bunch of times, and he's done some, not like you, not 13 or 14 days that he's told me, but I know that he's done like 80 hours, 90 hours, those kind of things, 4 days, 5 days. And it's worked incredibly well for him. Everything changed. He looked different. He acted different. He obviously looked far more healthy. Now there's a difference between starvation and healing. Mm. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, if you're looking for, people that don't need to lose a ton of weight, maybe they want to lose some, but they want to maybe, stave off some illness that could be there. Maybe there's some of these defective genes. Is it enough for like a 48-hour fast, in your opinion, to experience some autophagy and kind of rebuild, or do you need to do it longer than 48 hours?
Yeah, so you can actually get tremendous benefit from a 48-hour. So if you've got some type of disease that you want to improve, you want to help improve the symptoms associated with that, 48-hour will definitely do it. I recommend professionally a 72-hour fast. Mm-hmm. That would be optimal. So as we kind of look at kind of the shorter fast, I would consider 72-hour like at the beginning of your long-term fasting, but I've never met a person who couldn't do it. It's really just about understanding how to prep for it, how to get in the right mental space for it. So that's not to say you can't get similar benefit from a 48-hour. The 72-hour fast just simply maximizes. So you said earlier you wanted to get the most bang for your buck. You want to get the most output when you're exercising. My goal is minimum input at maximum output. And so the 72-hour fast does that. You get this. I mentioned earlier, after about 48 hours of fasting, your human growth hormone goes up about 2,000% in males.
2,000%. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So it's, if you're doing less than 48 hours, but you want to see that growth, that muscle development, just max it out, But then also when it comes to autophagy, by day 3, autophagy is fully active in your system. You're in ketosis. I mean, your body is just it's doing so many. It's completely shifts gears in how it functions essentially, and so you're giving your body time to get to that state when you do the 72-hour, especially if you focus on like getting material out of your intestinal tract, and we hold a lot of waste in our body, so you've got the fresh stuff that you can get out. Over time with consistency, especially if you start using something like juice fasting, you'll start getting rid of the old stuff as well. And then once you do that, you get even more efficiency out of your body, especially when you start eating, because now your intestines are ready to absorb, and it doesn't have all of that. We get like a lining in our intestinal tract. It's a synthetic lining, mucus and plaque and plastic, really, because we're eating these, the margarine. They say margarine, I think, is like one molecule away from plastic or something like that. So we're eating things that aren't real food, and it clogs or gunks our system up like a drain, So when you start fasting and you're consistent, you start to eliminate some of those issues, so you get better nutrition. And I think this is the reason why we see deficiencies go away, because we kind of try to fight deficiencies by supplementing. But we all know, anybody who's done, a lot of supplementing knows, when you take something in, you're not getting all the benefit from it, Part of why that is because low liver function and because our system's all gunked up. So what does fasting do? It upregulates the liver function. And once again, if you do it the right way, you can clean the intestinal tract so that you can absorb the nutrients from the food you're eating. So
that's really interesting. So what's the longest fast you've done?
Well, I did what I call a hybrid fast for 30 days. So that's the longest fasting protocol I've done. And what the hybrid fast is, you utilize juice, water, and dry fasting, and you kind of play with when you have these different fasts. So I did 10 days of each over the course of a month. And what I did was I cycled through them to create an environment where it was very seamless and easy for me to do it. I would use the different. Let me start like this. Each fast has its pros and its cons. So what I learned was, with juice fasting, if you drink enough juice on a juice fast, you will have no hunger. There's this thing called juice feasting, which I believe John Rose invented, where you drink like a gallon of juice a day, fresh pressed juice, by the way. And you basically replace your caloric intake, your daily caloric intake, with juice. You're not hungry. Your performance is you could do everything. Anything that you would normally do in a day, you could do. But it's a ton of juice, right? The drawback is you only lose about half a pound to a pound a day when you do that. So if that's a drawback, right? Water fasting, you lose weight faster. Your average is about 2 pounds per day, but you have the intense cravings. You have the heavy detox. It's harder to maintain, harder. Dry fasting, it's really easy to do the first couple of days because your digestive system goes basically completely to rest. So you don't have cravings, you don't have the hunger pangs, but your detox symptoms come in heavy after like day 3. So it's really hard to dry fast for long durations of time. Okay.
So dry fasting meaning that you're not having any water whatsoever.
Right. Yeah. Dry fasting is the traditional fast, right? The biblical fast. No food, no water. And so, dry fasting that's something you really need to understand what you're doing when you perform that as well. But so understanding the nuances of these different fasts, I learned that for me personally, when I dry fast, the only thing I want is water. You don't want to eat. You just want water. So I'm like, all right, cool. Well, what would happen if I started dry fasting, and then when I wanted water, I switched to water fasting? And then when you do water fasting, the only thing you want to do is eat something because you start getting hunger. So then I'm like, well, then what if I switch to juice fasting when I do that and I sate my hunger? And then because when you juice fast, you hydrate very well, right? You get the H3O2 from the juice. So now when I go into my dry fasting, I'm hydrated well. So now I can dry fast because that's the main concern when you go into dry fast and you want to be well hydrated. So then I just created this little cycle and I did that for 30 days and it was absolutely incredible.
Wow. What were the main benefits that you noticed?
Okay, so once again, we've been talking a lot about weight loss. I lost a crazy amount of weight. I'll say that. I think, I was already very small at the time, and I think I lost 30 pounds, 35 pounds.
Okay.
I had incredible clarity of mind, but I had energy as well. So at the time I was working as an electrician. It's summer in Texas. I'm going up on the roofs. I'm doing this, that, whatever. I was fine. No issues there. I mentioned earlier the whole infection thing. By that time, when I did that pretty much had already, subsided. But I guess I probably shouldn't add that to the story. That had actually already subsided. My skin, it was very hydrated. It was very, I don't know, like a glow. It was soft. My skin was
I know that a lot of people have had, that's one of the first things that a lot of people notice on even a 48-hour fast is like eczema, something like that. Psoriasis, eczema goes away immediately. There's something that people have been battling their entire life. And a lot of those things just seem like that. I don't know. It just always seems to me that looks like if you get poison ivy, you get something that irritates the skin, you get in contact with the skin, it has a visible rash, some way worse than others. Poison ivy is like a bad one, right? But like from the inside out with things that you're eating will manifest in the same kind of way, where you'll have like eczema or psoriasis or something on your skin, itchy kind of spots. And then when you stop eating that stuff, it goes away. But the problem is that we eat so many different things at so many different times, and there's so many different ingredients, including corn and so many things that we're eating, that you don't realize if that's what's bothering you, then basically everything that you're eating is bothering you. And so my daughter had gut issues. And so what we had to decide to do with her was basically fast and then introduce one thing, watch, introduce another thing, watch, introduce another thing, and there's a problem. So it's either that thing or it's a combination of these three things that you're eating. And we kind of diagnosed that, and she still doesn't know exactly what causes it, but the elimination seems to be one way that you can kind of figure it out. And this fasting is very, very interesting. So tell me about your like how you created this healthy alternative and what it is, and like how your program has developed into something more than just experimenting with your family, into something that is like available for anyone to check out.
So once my brother John had that incredible experience where he reversed his diabetic symptoms, lost all that weight, I'm like, we got to share this. I was trying to get my family involved. They came later on, but I'm like, let me just start a YouTube channel and let's just start putting.
What is that YouTube channel?
That's A Healthy Alternative.
A Healthy Alternative. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so you put that out there and what happens?
People, it started resonating with people, right? I think Jonathan's video ended up getting something like 60,000. I know he had well over 100,000 views because I put it in different parts. And I just saw that people really liked seeing that transformation. And so now they're asking questions. And so I'm starting to build a community. Now, at the same time, my brother John had created a group on on Facebook for the family. Once again, that's all we were trying to do is get our family involved. And he was like, hey, guys, if you want to learn about what we're doing, join this group, ask questions. All right. But he didn't understand how Facebook worked. So he made it a public group. Mm-hmm. So now he called it fasting for health, I think. Fasting for health or fasting for weight loss. And now all these people, random people, started joining the group. And it's so funny because he was so upset because it was supposed to be just for our family. But I saw an opportunity.
Right.
So I'm like, look, close that group. Let's create a group that's designed for the public, right? So the family can still use this group, but no one can join and all that. And then we'll kind of start, because people want this. So then I created a healthy alternative on Facebook. And so now we've got the YouTube channel and the Facebook both growing. And then my brother Steven's video came out. So now he done lost 100 pounds in 90 days. And that got almost 1 million views. And then from there, our Facebook group blew up. We've got maybe like 64,000 people in the Facebook group now. And I saw an opportunity because people wanted healing. And I always felt like natural healing should be available. If you want to go the traditional route, get surgery and treatment, that's fine. I don't have anything against it. I just think people should understand that there's an alternative. And I don't think a lot of people did. And so not even that, it's cheaper and it's holistically better. Right. So once we had the group established, people started giving testimonials. They're following what we're doing. We're just sharing what we're learning. They're giving testimonials, and I'm starting to recognize patterns. And so then I start sharing the patterns on my platform. I'm like, hey guys, I'm noticing this, I'm noticing that, right? In an expanded teaching format. And then I was like, well, shoot, do you want to share your journey on the channel? Mm-hmm. So now people from the group are coming on and sharing their journey on the channel. And we had a young guy that came on. His name was Justin Howe. He had lost 200 pounds. Yeah, here it is. And he ended up becoming his own. He started doing speaking engagements and things of that nature. And so the channel just started to grow. The brand started growing from there. And then I was just like, I noticed a lot of people are asking questions like repetitive questions. How do you do this? What do you do specifically? And I'm like, well, it's all in the videos. And they didn't want to go to the videos. Right. So I'm like, all right, let me put together a PDF guide. So then I put together a free PDF guide. And then that turns into well, can you host a group? Can you host a challenge? And then we started hosting these fasting challenges, which I don't think anybody is doing it at the scale we do it. We'll have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people join a challenge. And we have, 5 or 6 coaches, and we teach. We have different fasting methods that we teach. And depends on if you want to do like a 21 day, or if you want to, maybe you're a beginner and you want to do something shorter, or maybe you're really interested in dry fasting for inflammation and all of those benefits. And so we have these different programs, and we teach and we host, and, the rest is history, I guess.
You're good for you, man. You're helping so many people out. I'm looking at your channel, A Healthy Alternative on YouTube, 189,000 subscribers. And here's all what you were talking about. Your brother, 856,000, Justin here, 750,000. All these huge views on these channels or these videos. You have 1.3 thousand videos on here. So I'm interested in how you're positioning yourself here. Do you have any sort of medical training, or are you positioning yourself just like, this is what we do? You can do it if you want to. I'm not recommending it. Like, what's your position? How do you position yourself here?
So I've always approached this from, I'm just a guy who was sick, and I started experimenting on myself, and this is what I found. Yeah. And then I started to observe and give advice to other people who were, willing to do these things. And this is what we found. I thought about going the more professional route and getting different certifications and accreditations. And what I realized was, when I started looking into the traditional wisdom, there were all of these glass ceilings in what you were allowed to do, what you were allowed to say. For example, if I get a license, then now I can have my license taken away if I say the wrong thing, if I do I couldn't have those restrictions, because if there may be some things that I said today that you may not agree with, right? But everything that I said is my personal experience or firsthand experience from those around me, or, people I've coached. You can never take that away. People will say, well, that's anecdotal experience. Granted, it is anecdotal, but my question is, why do we discount anecdotal evidence? I've actually found that through anecdotal evidence, we have far surpassed some of the traditional outlets. Like, for example, diabetes right now, there is no cure for diabetes. OK, you take a pill, you take a treatment. Cool. Your symptoms will get better. You can manage them. You can extend your life. You don't lose your limbs. This is all great. I do not proclaim to cure anything. I'm not a medical professional. I will never cure anything. However, I can help you reverse the symptoms associated with diabetes. So the question is, what do you want? Are you looking for a pill to treat and manage symptoms, or are you looking for disease symptom reversal? Mm-hmm. And so, depending on what people are looking for, then, you go to that professional, right? If you have legal problem, you go to your lawyer. You don't go to a mechanic for legal problems. So I look at myself as a wellness professional, and I do not have any certifications or degrees. And I think that's actually one of the benefits of why I'm able to get outcomes that the degreed counterparts can't get. Yeah. Now, the good thing is there are degreed counterparts that are out here learning fasting. Dr. Jason Fung was, I think, one of the first that really made a big splash. He's great. He still teaches fasting a little different from me, right? And there's other professionals out here. If you need that the degree, if you need that, but if you're just okay with seeing what your body is naturally capable of, we never promote anything that is dangerous or this is all natural. Everybody fasts, right? You go to sleep every night. When you sleep, you're fasting. That's a fasted state. Bears hibernate and different animals, they take periods of time where they don't eat. Your dog gets sick. He'll go eat some grass, throw up, and he won't eat. He'll just drink water. So this is a very natural thing. And I think that we've just got away from it. And it's really just teaching people what their body's capable of.
Yeah. Have you had any pushback from people outside of your community? I'm sure, YouTube's not the most positive place in the world with the comments and things. But I'm just wondering if you have, pushback from people like, oh, you don't know what you're doing. You're not a medical doctor. I don't know. I'm coming at this from a place of, I see what you're doing. I think you're doing good work here. And I think that it's important that people understand that this is based upon your experience, not what you've learned in school or a certification. I'm just wondering, because I'm sure that it's happened, that people are, what's your experience with that? Like the pushback?
So early on, I got a lot of pushback, not a lot, but it was, pretty regular that I would get comments like that. And, it's actually funny. You can go in my comment section and you can see how positive it's overwhelmingly positive. Mm-hmm. So even though we understand that YouTube can be a very negative space, I put the energy out when I was building my brand. I'm like, I want this to be a positive space where people can come and learn. I don't have a lot of hard stances against things. So because of that, a lot of people feel welcome. So for example, I mentioned earlier, I'm not a vegan. I have no issue with people who eat meat. You may be on carnivore. Cool. I can work with you, right? Or maybe you're a vegan. Cool. I can work with you. I think my openness and willing to hear people has helped a lot with that. But when people will say, people really just say you're going to hurt somebody. That was like the main thing. Oh, you're going to hurt someone. It's like I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. Mm-hmm. Like I could literally have a YouTube channel teaching people about knives, right? Or maybe even how to do the little butterfly knife and do tricks with knives. I could do that. And then someone could cut themselves. Did I make them do that? I'm just teaching. People don't want to take responsibility and ownership for their actions. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. So I've had a couple of doctors, say certain things, but nobody ever comes with any facts, because fasting is only tested on animals and like insects and stuff like that. Like, they really don't do human trials.
There haven't been any doctors that have reached out. Like, I don't know if you know who Wim Hof is, but he does the breathing thing. And so that's one of the things that got him some legitimacy, is he was kind of like you. He said, I don't have any medical certifications. He was terribly depressed because his wife had committed suicide, and he was getting in cold water, and he was doing this breathing technique, and he was experiencing a lot of great things. And then he started to do these extreme challenges where he was staying in ice for a long time. And, same kind of thing. People are like, you're going to kill yourself or you're going to kill somebody else. And he's like, well, why don't you study what I'm doing? And all these research facilities and hospitals and universities and brought him in to monitor him while he was doing these things. And he didn't say anything. He just said, this is what I'm doing. I'm not telling anybody else to do it. And these are the results that these scientists have found. And he became like a study, he was the study. And then now it's factual that based upon all these studies, that these are the benefits that protocol could give you if you stick to it. And I would think that there would be the same thing going for you, that some people would want to study this. I'm surprised that no one has reached out to participate in one of your, when someone is losing this weight and that they don't want to study them.
That's actually interesting. I've never even considered that. I've always assumed that people would look at me more like I'm a problem. So like if you were, let's say you're a scientist and you have a laboratory and you could test blood and you could do all these things, right. I always just assumed that they would be more turned off. And I never even considered that someone might want to do that. But I have seen some of those types of situations happen. There was a guy in India that was studied by a team of doctors. This is probably like 30 years ago. It's been a long time. And he touted that he didn't eat or drink, just period. So I don't know if you've heard of breatharians before, but
that's what they are. All you do is breathe.
Basically.
There's a name for everything. Okay. A breatharian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's definitely the extreme side of things, but he was brought into a hospital for, I believe it was 2 weeks the first time, because they've had him come back a couple times, and they monitored him 24/7, and they noticed that he didn't defecate, he didn't urinate, and of course he didn't consume anything during that time. And we know 2 weeks is long enough to break the paradigm that you're going to die after, was it 3 days? It's like 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks, whatever I don't know what they tell you anymore, but that it was enough time to say, okay, clearly he's doing something, right? So those types of experiments or those types of things exist, but they're far and few between. There's actually some other experiments where people did something similar and they were tested by a team and they ended up having issues. So, for every one guy who did it and it was like, look at this guy, he was super successful. There's another guy who did it and it was like the results weren't good. But what we've done as a community, we've got all these gadgets now, right? We've got scales. I have a scale that it's a body pod scale that it's similar to a DEXA scan. Like,
yeah, I know what it is.
And it's like you just get all these data points. People, they have the monitors they sleep with. And so the beautiful thing about my position is I've got thousands, tens of thousands of people, and they give me data all the time. It's like the greatest. It's not an official study at all, but if you just take it for what it is, and me, I get to see where, I can tell when someone's lying to me. Like I could tell when someone, I fasted for X amount of days and I experienced this and that or whatever. I've gotten so much data that I can tell when someone's being dishonest. I could tell when they're having a unique experience. I've just had so much experience now. So we've learned a lot. And I guess I'll say this, for those of you who need the double-blind placebo, we're not the community for you. I'm certainly not that guy for you. I think there's some facilities out there that are run by doctors and they fast, right? They teach fasting. There are facilities out there where you can get that. You're gonna pay for it, and you got to go and you got to travel and you've got to follow their regimen, and they'll test you and they have nurses, and you could do it that way. And I don't have any problem with that. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, I would think people like that would want access to your community, and I would think that would be ultimately, like, you're making a tremendous contribution to people that really need your. I mean, obviously, you got 189,000 people on your channel. A lot of people have lost a lot of weight and changed their life completely through your protocol, and probably some things that they're doing on their own as well too. I don't know, but a lot of people are having a lot of success. I would think that someone would want access to that data, and ultimately that would be your greatest contribution, would be to show the world of science what is going on here. And that's what Wim Hof did. And I think that it's very, very interesting. And I see it very similarly. That's, I mean, I don't know. He did it in a way that he was just doing these extreme things that people said were impossible. And he said, well, I'll do it right in front of you. And you can study me. And he did. And then they found out all these crazy things that were happening within the human body that they didn't think it was possible for that to happen. So I don't know. I would think that would be something that somebody would be interested in. So if anybody's out there, call him up.
I'm open to it. Yeah, that would be great. I never even considered that.
Cool. Let me ask you this other question, because I'm just curious. On your long fasts and with the data that you have and the people that you talk to, you go, and in my experience, at 60 hours, you basically stop pooping, right? When do you normally stop? And then, like, do you poop more? Like, if you go like 20 days, do you just stop pooping?
Good question. So the interesting thing about it is the reason why we see the bowel movements stop, or I would say slow, is really what it boils down to, is because a lot of times I'll talk to people that are like, they might be like 150 pounds overweight, and I'll ask them, how are your bowel movements? Oh, I have a bowel movement every day. All right, cool. So that's a normal thing, right? Well, I look at it like a toothpaste tube, where when you take a completely full toothpaste tube and you apply a little pressure at the bottom, toothpaste comes out the top, right? And our body is kind of like that, where you have a completely full, it's full of crap, honestly, and then you eat and it pushes a little bit out. And so you have regular bowel movements and you think, oh, Chris, I'm regular, blah, 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 blah. But there's a statistic that says that anybody, the average American has anywhere from 10 to 20 pounds of excess fecal matter at any given time. That's insane.
That's right. Do you think that's right, though?
Oh,
your
yes.
Experience. You think it's right. Okay.
More.
Okay.
More, probably. And so what happens is when you start fasting, you might have a bowel movement like that day. And if you say 60 hours, you probably won't have another one, because it might take about 3 days for you to have that next bowel movement. And then from that point, it might take another 4 days to have another bowel movement. And then it might take another 7 days to have another bowel movement. So your bowel movements slow down tremendously, but you do continue to have them.
Wow. Now,
by the time you get to like day 14, you're probably going to be pooping out bile fluid more than anything else. But what's in that fluid is so when you start to release the toxins from the fat stores, they got to go somewhere. Now, most of your weight actually comes out through your breath. And this is the reason why sleep is so important when you fast, because you have a more natural sleep breathing rhythm when you sleep. And so you actually get more benefits. So if you're tracking your weight, you'll notice between the hours that if you get on the scale before you go to sleep and when you wake up, you'll lose the most weight. Yeah. Right. So that's where the weight goes. That's like 80% of it. You have a little bit through urination. The rest is through defecation. So as you're fasting, you're going to have that bile come out. It's going to have all those contaminants come out. I mean, it's going to be nasty stuff. It's going to smell bad. When you start getting past 30 days, Now that material, that synthetic material on the in the intestinal tract I was mentioning earlier, that starts to degrade and that starts to come out. So on my first fast, I believe it was, I utilized herbs to help speed that process up because I was learning about this film and this gunk, and Google was saying that it wasn't real. They call it mucoid plaque. Mm-hmm. And so Google was saying it's not real. People just make it up. But I was like, well, let me just try for myself, And around day 12, I think I still have the picture. It's from like 12 years ago. I think I still have the picture. I had this bowel movement. It was huge. Now, remember, I told you by 2 weeks, your bowel movements are small and they're, you know. So I had this huge bowel movement. And I'm like, what?
And you hadn't eaten in 30 days.
At the time, I think it was like almost 2 weeks.
Okay, so 14 days.
Yeah. And I go to look in the toilet and it's this thing it's brown. So it's the color of a bowel movement, but it's like all mucus. It looked like a mucus snake, like a brown mucus snake. And it was sitting there floating in my toilet. And I'm like, what is that? And upon further inspection, I realized that was the mucoid plaque that everybody was talking about that Google said didn't exist. And
so has that happened on subsequent 30-day fasts or subsequent long fast, or just the one first time?
Just the one, because and now this is just my experience. When I started fasting, I changed everything. I changed my lifestyle. So my belief is that you have a certain amount of this stuff in your system. Once it's gone unless you build it back up again.
Right.
So when I did my 30-day fast, nothing like that happened. I've never had anything like that happen again. Nothing.
Have you had other people tell you a similar story?
Right.
A lot.
So I told my story on my platform, and now I'm getting all this feedback from people talking about their experience, and of course I'm getting pictures too, right? I got pictures.
Okay, please stop sending the mucoid plaque pictures.
Right there, it's really trifling. But what I noticed was a pattern. Now, like I said, I used herbs to kind of accelerate my process. But what I noticed at the time I was using was called the Dr. Sebi Small Cleanse Package. It's not. It doesn't exist anymore. I could probably look up the ingredients in it, but it was a blend of probably maybe 7 or 8.
And that's like a tea. You're drinking a tea, or you're eating something.
A capsule.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a capsule. So what I noticed when people started talking about their experience, 30 days or more is when you would get it. If let's say you're just water fasting, no herbs, nothing, just a pure water fast, 30 days or more. And typically closer to the 40-day mark is when people would see this stuff come out. And they said it would come out in different forms. Some people's came out, they said it was almost like rubber. It was almost like a plastic sheath that would come out. So it didn't always look the same. That's one thing that I will say. There were different variances of it, but similar stories where they were like having a big bowel movement. Where does this thing come from? And then they look in the toilet and there's this weird thing in there.
Whoa. Wow. I kind of suspected that might be the case. But I've never fasted that long, so I don't know. But wow. So where do you think this community's going? What's your kind of blue sky the next 5 years? What do you think we're going to experience here with your community?
So we've constantly grown, and we host retreats, and we've got these huge challenges and all of that, right? My next goal is a wellness center. So this is where we get to take things to the next level. We're going to have equipment for testing. We're going to have probably some people who are licensed to, be able to like operate it and really give you a breakdown of what's going on. We'll never become some type of medical facility or something like that. It'll always be based off of holistic wellness, but it'll be an opportunity for people to come. Maybe we'll have some fasting beds, because the thing about it is, like, we've been talking, having a great conversation. We understand fasting works. There's no doubt about it. The problem is, can you do it? Can you be successful? So my goal is to create programs, supplements, and different tools that people can use to help get our success rate. Let's say if our success rate is at 50%, like, can we get that to 75%? Where if people follow our protocol, can they more than likely be successful? Just so that we can get more consistent results. And then from that point, I want to grow. I want to spread out, and we'll have our first facility that we kind of perfect and figure out what we want to see. It'll double as a venue space so we can host events. And then from there, we'll get more. And I would like to see one of those facilities in every state at least. And just be able to offer services to people at an affordable price, right? Because nothing that we're doing has to cost. And then one of the main elements of the wellness center is a garden. I want each center to have a garden. So if you're there visiting us, you can do some gardening, you can ground, you can eat fresh fruit and vegetables and things of that nature, because that plays a huge role in your success. I promote raw food. I think we mentioned that earlier, because it's the digestive enzymes, but also, there's companies out there that are poisoning our food. The pesticides, make no doubt about it. If the bugs can't eat it, if the sun can't burn it, if the water can't drown it, and these are all natural processes that the body uses to break down food, what makes you think that your gut can break it down?
Right.
So we've got to stop eating fake food. You told your story about your daughter and even yourself. Like, if you're eating fake food, if you're eating inflammatory foods, they're going to make you sick. And we think corn is like a natural food, but it's like, it's hybridized and it's been altered and it's been sprayed, and it's frankly
right. I mean, so much of the corn that we grow isn't even edible. Like it's for like ethanol and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think it begins with education. I mean, if you were to tell somebody, you're not eating real food, most people don't even know what that is. Well, I'm eating these mashed potatoes that came out of this box. That's real food. It's potatoes, right? Right. But there's so many other ingredients in something like that, and everything else. I always say eat as close to the source as possible. So like, that broccoli, it looks like it just got cut off from the ground, right? Like that's pretty close to the source. But if you go to a store that's very reputable, and a lot of people think, oh, Trader Joe's, everything in there is healthy. Well, it's mostly processed from what I can tell. Like healthy is like a stalk of broccoli, right? Or an organic steak, like as close as you can get. That's what I try to do. But anyway, I think that that you're doing some really great work, man. Doing really great work. Very interesting. I've had a number of my friends do the fasting, experience tremendous results. Some of them have lost a lot of weight. Most of my friends have done it for different reasons. And I think that it's really, really super interesting. So congratulations on your big community. If you want to go check out the YouTube page, it is A Healthy Alternative, right? A healthy alternative on YouTube. There's 187,000 people there, so you'll know you're on the right one. And thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Oh man, we didn't cover this. This is the one big thing I wanted to cover. Maybe you can quickly go over why this protocol you're able to lose this tremendous amount of weight without loose skin.
Yeah, actually, I should have mentioned that earlier when I was telling my brother's story. So one of the things that we noticed when we were doing the long fasting was this fast and shrink week, right? Well, what in retrospect, I learned that was autophagy. Okay, now autophagy does something special between days 14 to 21. But in general, autophagy, it cleans up this excess protein, this extra skin. It cleans it up because what is the body using it for anymore? Right now, what causes the stretching of the skin and the disfiguring of the skin anyway. All right. So like you gain all this weight, you've got the fat cells. They have basically an infinite capacity for storage. Because if you think about it, if you look at my 600-pound life, these people are, 600, 700 pounds. It seems that the fat stores know no bounds. And so the skin is supposed to stretch with it, which we see it does do that. But then trying to tighten it back up is crazy because, well, we're dehydrated. So what I learned was our protocol works well, yes, because of autophagy, but also because what do you drink? What are you doing when you're doing the fasting? You're drinking water. When you fast and you're drinking water, the body processes water more efficiently. So we talked about the bulk water earlier. Bulk water cannot be used by the cells. The body has to process that water and then turn it into what I call cellular water. Some people call it intracellular water. Gerald Pollack will call it the fourth phase of water. There's many different words depending on who you are and whatever, but it's water that the cells can use. Well, the body does that way more efficiently when you're fasting. So you're drinking water, you're getting better hydration, your autophagy is repairing those damaged cells. So it's clearing out these damaged dehydrated cells. You're replacing them with better lubricated, hydrated cells. And so when you start to lose the weight, the elasticity of the skin comes back and just snaps back in place. So we've seen, like I mentioned, okay, Justin, he lost 200 pounds, no loose skin. My brother Steve ended up losing, I think ultimately he lost 200 pounds, no loose skin. John, I think John ended up losing, 90 pounds, 100 pounds, no loose skin. My sister, 50, 70 pounds, whatever it was, no loose skin. And then of course every time I've had a guest come on, I asked them because it got to be a thing where people were like, hey, Chris, ask your guests if they had loose skin. So I did. Now, what I noticed was for those who utilize juice fasting, or if they utilized fruit fasting, right, where they would just eat fruit, I noticed that for whatever reason, if they overdid it, meaning if they would, let's say that they would go like 90 days, fruit only, those people tend to have some loose skin. Not a lot. Nothing that you would see from a traditional diet, losing 100 pounds. So it's not scary, but they would have a little bit more. So, and I still haven't worked out why that is. I haven't really interacted with groups that do that enough to have a really good understanding of it. I've also noticed there was another big fasting group that was growing around the same time as me. They came out before me, but they had this very special electrolyte drink that you would take, and it made fasting very seamless. So people loved it because you could get the weight loss, you get the benefits, but you didn't get any of the detox symptoms. And I was always a little leery of that. And what I noticed was the people in that group all had loose skin. Wow. They had the traditional amount of loose skin where you might need surgery to get rid of it. So I learned that there was a cost that people had to pay for kind of gaming the fasting system a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. That's super interesting. Maybe you'll figure that out one day. What causes that? But anyway, so many questions still. It's funny that you would have so many questions on just simply not eating anything. But I think it's super interesting. But you're doing some great work, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming on. And if you want to go check him out, a healthy alternative. And that's it. Facebook too, right? All right. Thanks, Chris.